Alright, so today we're going to be looking at how to use double-ended watercolor brush pens. For those of you who are the ASM students watching this video, Miss Lara and I asked you to purchase the 18 pack. I've got the 36 pack here. I know some of you ended up getting it. It wasn't required, but if you got the 18 pack, I'm happy. But double-ended watercolor brush pens. Now you may have gotten a few different brands. What I have here is the Stedletter one, which is the one we suggested you guys get for price. I've also got a few of the Koi brush pens as well. They're also water-based. You can see that right there. Water-based. They were left behind by a former student when she left the country, and so they've become adopted into my art supplies. So I've got these ones and I've got those ones. Now the only difference is these ones have a single tip. They've got just the brush side on the one side, whereas the Stedletter ones have two different types of tips. They've got the fine tip, which is great for doing some detail work and things like that, and they've got the brush tip. So what I'm going to be doing today is twofold. I'm going to be doing some swatches and I'm going to be doing some layers. The swatches, which are going to be along here, are going to help me identify which color's which, because not often, well, not always, but sometimes the color that is on the tip of the pen, the cap of the pen, is not the same as the color that's actually in the ink that's inside of it. It dries differently, especially because it dries differently on every paper. So we're going to see how it does on this paper. Okay, so at this point I've erased all the lines from being heavy, just being a little bit lighter, and now I'm going to start with organizing my colors and doing my swatches and my layers. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use these Koi markers because they're already out of the package, and it makes my life just a little bit easier. Now, with the Kois, you can see that they have codes on them here, XBR 3, XBR 5, and names, yellow and orange. Okay, over here we got XBR 125, sky blue. Now generally when you swatch markers, it's handy to write that information down with the colors. Okay, so it helps you keep track of which one's which. So I'll probably do the same. To swatch them, I'm just simply going to take the marker out. You can see that it has the fine tip. It's still in pretty good condition despite the fact that these ones are secondhand. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to use it on the side. I don't want to use it tip straight down because I'm not trying to get a fine line. If I was trying to get a fine line, I'd use a tip, but because I want to just fill in this box, I'm just going to use the side to get the whole length of the brush. So this is the first time I'm using these. You can see there's a little bit of beads of water on the side, and we're going to see what it does on this paper. Okay, so there's my sky blue. Okay, I'm going to fill in the whole section. And it can give me a chance to see what happens as I overlay the blue on top of it and see how dark it can get. Now with this paper, there's a little bit of bleeding on the edge, but not too much. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other colors. In no particular Now that I've finished drawing these on, I'm going to use my Unipen, okay, which is another one of the products I asked you to get, a fine tip pen, and I'm going to write the names and the codes on for each of these so that I can help keep track. Alright, so first off we've got, it's good to test to make sure they're dry. Some of them still feel a little tacky, so we're going to see what happens. So one of the reasons it's really important to keep track of the codes, you can see I've written them all. This one that when I originally laid down looked a little bit purplish. Definitely didn't look like this navy blue color. And then it dried and it's still kind of a bluey purple, a bit in the violet range, but the brand labels it as blue. So it's helpful to not always trust the names of the codes, but have a swatch of it to know what it's going to look like on the paper that you're using. Which means no matter what paper you're using, it's good to re-swatch your colors. Alright, so those are the 7 that were the Koi Sakura brand brush pens. Now I'm going to do my 36 pack of Stedletters. So The 36 pack, you can see, is already kind of broken into different color families. Tends to have kind of the paler, muddier colors up top and kind of the brighter and darker colors down the bottom. I don't know if I'm going to manage to actually do it in a rainbow color along here, but I might try. Now, in regards to how these are labeled, so you can see that there is absolutely no information on this pen of what each of these colors are. Okay, they just have a symbol for what is the fine tip and which one is the brush tip. That's all. They're just, easily identifiable. This is why they're one of the reasons they're a cheaper brand that's good for students, because price point is that they don't bother with any of the extra information. They save money in the production costs. So these swatches are going to be really important, but I'm going to have a hard time matching them to specific pens. So I'm going to have to find a solution for that. Okay, so I guess the best point to start is just to pull out a chunk of colors and get started there. These two look really similar, so I'm going to be really curious of what these look like on the page. Okay, so once again, I can always check to see if it's a brush pen. Another way to know is that this side has an extra little gray piece to show that it's a fine tip. There we go, on the camera. And this piece has an extra little colored tip to show me that it's the brush pen. You can see right there. So I'm going to use that to get started. Okay, that one's quite pale. That'll be handy when working on skin tones. That one's a little bit warmer. So you can see that even though these two colors, the nibs or the caps look really close to being the same color, actually when you put them on the page are quite different. This is the reason why it's important to swatch, because how it shows up on the page versus how it shows on the cap can be incredibly different. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and do the rest of the colors. Okay, so there were definitely some surprising ones in here. As I was doing the color swatching, some things that I wasn't quite expecting for the colors. And it's really important that I've done these, because now I can get a good look at what each of these colors are going to look like on my normal sketchbook paper. Well, this is the sketchbook that I use here at school. I think I'm going to do some swatches on some other papers so you guys can get an idea of what it looks like as well. The biggest surprise was probably this color. It's really hard to quite see it. It's kind of like an icy blue, but when you look at the cap lid, it definitely doesn't look like that. Another one that was a huge surprise were the ones where the caps were silver and gold, and that definitely doesn't look like gold. So yeah, just be aware that this is why we swatch.